Confusion. A status condition originally designed to mess up your opponent, make battles unpredictable, and even force risky plays. But in Pokemon Legends Z-A, it's underwhelming, and it really doesn't do much. Today we're diving into why confusion currently falls flat in Z-A and what new mechanics could make it actually meaningful, and showing you how your battles could get deeper with a proper rework. If you've ever been frustrated by a status condition that just feels decorative, you'll want to stick around. Let's get into it. According to the actual description of confusion, it causes the Pokemon to move erratically on the battlefield, making it not come back to you after an attack in a straight line. And while this might, I guess, give you a minor inconvenience to making you more vulnerable to some attacks, it really and truly doesn't offer much in opposed to the more competitive scenes. Like Outrage, it's such a good move because it has no drawbacks from the effects of the move from like generation 8 and beyond. So there's no 33% chance of you attacking yourself. You can basically spam the move and the only thing you get out of it is your Pokemon running in like a zigzag pattern, which honestly, if you can make the space, I guess, from another Pokemon, like to avoid another attack, it really and truly doesn't even matter. So if confusion is actually going to matter in Z-A, it needs to match the mechanics of this real-time battle system. The timing, the control, actual risk versus reward. Otherwise, it just becomes another status that just gets ignored. So here's my ideas for how I think confusion should work in Z-A. And I'd love to hear yours too. So if you enjoy these types of breakdowns and theory videos, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe. I'm going to be doing so much more of these, especially for Generation 10 games coming out soon. So if you don't want to miss any of those, make sure you're locked in with me, gang. So idea 1. Random move cooldowns while confused. This is such a fun one to me because imagine being confused and then going to use an attack. Somebody switches in a Pokemon that you're like, oh, perfect, I have the perfect move for that. Just to see that move is randomly on a cooldown. I think that is such a good side effect to the confusion because in these real-time battles, everything is happening so fast. You want to get this move off like immediately. You want to try to snipe those KOs, time them perfectly, and to be deterred by your moves that your ace moves being on cooldown just randomly. I love that idea, especially for a 3-minute match. That makes using that confusion move, inducing move, or being confused in a match, it's more of a mind game. Now you have to think about, should I switch until the confusion goes away? Does confusion even go away while they're in their Pokeballs? This right here alone, this might be probably the best way to buff up the confusion status by far. Like, this takes out the whole idea of setup moves. What happens if you freeze a Pokemon or you're frozen and you still happen to be confused at the same time? You have to use Flame Wheel or Overheat to actually melt the ice, but the move's on cooldown. You can't use it. The implications of this is so great. Pokemon like Ghost Pokemon can actually finally see more use out of moves like Confuse, right? It's, oh my goodness, like the more I think about this move, the more scary it sounds to use things like Dragonite. Garchomp might actually take a bit of a nerf due to this. So it is so many different things that can happen, that can shift alone just off of the random cooldowns off of this moveset. And for my second idea, I would have the moves fire off randomly while you're confused. This would just be probably as good as the moves being on cooldown, because if you're randomly trying to avoid an attack and your Pokemon randomly just stops to fire off one of those attacks at a Pokemon, oh my goodness, when I tell you, like, just adding in that bit of automation, oh my goodness, to your Pokemon while they're confused would be so like anime tied to the anime. I'm lost for words because I'm just so excited about what that could do. It could be literally akin to the anime, a Pokemon being confused, just going on a rampage, you know, not listening, not following you, stuff like that. So it could build on the lackluster movement debuff, I guess, for your Pokemon, but still give it that, oh my goodness, because then at that point, your Dragonite who's confused from using Outrage pulls off a Draco Meteor out of nowhere and like randomly hits people. Like it is so many different things that could happen just from just the clips you can get, just like the whole randomness of the battle in itself, you know. So I think that even making the moves just fire off by themselves periodically, it would be such a game changer for a 3-minute match, because not only does that essentially give you that random cooldown, but it also takes a move that you may have been saving for a certain part of the match out of the equation for a certain amount of time. So those two alone already make Confusion, like, in my opinion, a top tier candidate for, you know, one of the best status moves in the game. And for my third idea, it would be honestly to just add both of those effects plus the already built-in effect to Confusion rolled up in one. So let me know if you guys think that would be too OP. But in my theory breakdown of this and my thinking of this and everything, you know, having all three of those effects tied to Confusion would honestly, that would just be like the perfect status condition. Not only do your moves randomly cool down, but they can also have a chance to fire off I by themselves. Like, I know that the 33% chance to hit yourself thing was kind of big in the older generations, but you have to think about the fact that you would sometimes be using moves that didn't have 100% accuracy. So, you know, not only were you risking not hitting your opponent, but you also risked not being able to, well, risk doing damage to yourself, you know. So you lose a turn, you do damage to your chip damage to yourself. Well, honestly, 33% is actually a lot of damage. So in my opinion, this would make it just as terrifying and, you know, brain racking and nerve wracking as it was in a competitive scene from, you know, Generation 8 and beyond. I don't know if should this, would this technically be Generation 9 still, I guess. So would Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet be Generation 9, I guess. So I guess I should still be saying 9. But this is so needed for this move. For this status condition. I literally, since the start of playing the game, I have never saw any downsides into being confused. Maybe my Pokemon are just too overleveled, you know, by the time I was using moves like Outrage or being hit with Dynamic Punch. I don't think I even seen Dynamic Punch until I was in like post game. So in my opinion, Confusion really and truly doesn't do it for me. Let me know what you guys think. This was just a short video breaking down how I felt about it. Let me know, do you feel like Confusion is great as it is? Maybe you think it needs a buff as well too. My personal opinion, I still think Frozen is the best status condition in the game, unless you have a fire Pokemon that has those specific moves. Like, there's nothing you can honestly do about that. So that was the video, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe for me if you enjoyed the video and everything. I have to go and now make yet another video, so I'll be catching you guys later. See you next time.